Welcome to 1 Million Cups. We're glad to have you here. Grab a cup of coffee, have a seat. Some of you might know that last week we were featured in the New York Times, which is pretty exciting. Let's give ourselves a hand for that. Yeah. So 1 Million Cups is a weekly gathering where you get a backstage pass into two entrepreneurs' lives, local entrepreneurs that present for 6 minutes, and then we give about 20 minutes for questions and answers. So 1 Million Cups has been around for about 2 years, and we're really excited that every week we get to gather together and meet new people, hear cool presentations, ask great questions, and get insight into what people are doing in Kansas City. This morning, I'm really excited for our first presenter. Steve O'Connor has founded a dozen startups, has been a part of about 20 different startups in other capacities, and his first startup was 1992, as he says, before it was cool to be a startup. So with that, welcome Steve O'Connor.
Thank you. I'll apologize ahead of time. I have a cold, and if I sneeze, it's going to be echoed by the little microphone, so I'll try and turn it off real quick. Thanks for having me today. My name's Steve O'Connor. I'm the CEO of ImpeDx Diagnostics. We perform very rapid blood culture of pathogens in human patients. We sell equipment, or we're developing products to sell equipment and reagents into hospital testing labs, with our primary clinical indication being sepsis. The problem, there's about 20 million blood cultures done every year in the United States, okay? You present at a hospital, the doctor thinks you're sick, you've got a fever, high white blood cell count, you're disoriented. They take a sample of blood out, they send it to the hospital testing lab, and then they grow it. Because if there's bad bugs in there, they want to know because they're going to treat you differently, okay? So it's a big market. The gold standard, which is sold by Becton Dickinson, returns a result in 1 to 5 days, okay? Sample goes to the lab, 1 to 5 days later, the doctor knows that something happened. The clinical indication is sepsis. Sepsis, I don't know if you guys know, kills more people than breast cancer and lung cancer combined every year, okay? 250,000 people die every year in the United States of sepsis. The sad thing is, it can be treated if you find it early enough, okay? So targeted antibiotics almost always cure sepsis if you get it early enough. And it's extremely expensive. It costs about $17 billion in direct costs just in the United States. That doesn't include indirect every year. So here's the process. A sample comes in and is collected by the doctor. It's sent to the hospital testing lab. The first thing you do is you do blood culture, which is basically just growing the pathogens. Once that's done, you then identify the pathogen. Is it Streptococcus? Is it Pseudomonas? Is it E. coli? What is this bug? Because I'm going to change my treatment depending on what it is. Then you do antibiotic resistive testing, which is, okay, great, it's strep, but some versions of strep are resistant to certain drugs. So I need to find what the targeted drug is. If you're lucky, each one of these things takes a day, okay? So a little kid comes in and they think they're septic. They're not actually treating them properly for maybe 3 days, okay? A lot of times, the first step is the slow one, and this is what we do. It might take 3 days, okay? So these patients are sitting around. By the way, some of them are sent home also, so they could be septic and they're sent home. So what do? We do the exact same process. A blood sample's collected. We just shrink the blood culture, okay? So we don't have a really long blood culture. We have a really quick blood culture. Then we do pathogen identification, and we do antibiotic resistive testing, just like everyone else does, okay? Now, if it was 1 day, it might be a couple hours. If it was 3 days, it might be 4 or 5 hours. But in any event, this big gap where we get to the proper result quicker definitely will save lives. And very importantly, most of these patients are in the ICU, which costs anything between $3,000 and $10,000 per day, depending on the treatment. So if we get people out of the hospital 1 day quicker, our test pays for itself by about a factor of 100. The way we do it, this is a graphic. This is a blood sample, and the little black things are bacteria. You can model this as an electronic circuit. So we zap it with some electrical signals. As the bacteria grow and proliferate, this component of our electronic circuit goes up. So instead of doing what everyone else does, which is measures carbon dioxide production by the bacteria, we do a direct electronic measurement of the bacteria. The current gold standard has about 10 to the 8th per milliliter detection limit. We have 10 to the 3rd. So this is not a little bit better. It's 5 orders of magnitude more sensitive than the current products on the market. I'm going to skip that. It works for a lot of different bugs. This is, we've done about 25 of the FDA's written list of different pathogens, so it works on everything. With all these tests, we've benchmarked against the hospital testing lab machine, which again is the FDA-approved machine, and we're always faster. It's a big market. There's 5,700 hospitals in the United States. About 20 million tests are done per year at an average cost of about $22 a test. So this is a billion-dollar market-ish in the United States. Of course, this is even more important in developing countries because people get a lot sicker and are pathogenic there more often. Our development timeline, we're not an internet startup, all right? We're not going to have a product tomorrow. We do have regulatory hurdles we have to go through. We have to design our product under good design principles. We're currently doing a clinical study. Our partnership was with the University of Missouri in Columbia. That's where the technology is licensed from. We're working with the medical school there. And so we're in the process now of doing 1,000 clinical samples and benchmarking with our technology against the current gold standard. We're already talking to partners, so we think we can partner this product out or actually sell the company at a very early stage. Actually, after we've done our clinical study, we have indications we could do that. Our product development is fairly straightforward. It'll take about 18 months and cost a couple $1 million. Our clinical studies are pretty straightforward. There is written FDA guidance on what we have to do. We have to collect 2,000 samples at 3 different clinical sites in order to get this approved by the FDA, and we already have our partnering hospitals lined up to do that. We could easily do that in 4 to 5 months. Again, 20 million samples are done a year, so us collecting 2,000 is not going to be a problem. And then we could have a 510(k) approval for our product launch. We have grant money from the NIH. We also have grant money from the Culture Foundation, and we're in the process of actually raising about $1 million right now, of which we already have some committed for the development and business development. Our team, I've done this for about 20 years. I'm kind of tired, honestly, sometimes of doing it. But I have a technical background, so I have a PhD in chemistry from Caltech, but I've been doing startups both on the business side and the technical side for about 22 years. I did most of them in Los Angeles, so I lived in Los Angeles for about 20 years and moved back here a few years ago for family reasons. Shramik is our CTO. He's the inventor of the technology, and we're doing all of our current studies in his laboratory at Mizzou. And Kim is our chief medical officer. She's a professor of pathology at UCLA and the medical director at Northridge Hospital in Los Angeles. She's the person that would buy our product if we went to her hospital, okay? So if we wanted her hospital to buy our product, she's the person that we talk to. So she's our domain expert in the market. We have issued intellectual property on this, okay? So we have a patent that's issued and numerous other patents that are being filed. We think our path exit is fairly straightforward. Our science is proven. We've already done it, so all we have to do is do the engineering now. And there's a huge pharmacoeconomic upside of this. Any way you look at it, paying $100 for our test is going to pay for itself easily, whether it's getting to targeted antibiotics quicker or getting patients out of the hospital. So, and that's it.
All right.
That's 6 minutes.
All right, time for questions. If you can raise your hand, Jason and I will come around and, all right here in the middle.
What's keeping Becton Dickinson from doing this?
Most diagnostic companies are on a 12-year cycle of product launch until when they want to develop a new product. So number one, it's very possible they're in the middle of a product development cycle. So if you look at Abbott or Becton Dickinson or Roche or one of those companies, they don't launch new products addressing the same market except for every 12 or 13 years. And it's hard. I mean, we invented some stuff and it's hard. I mean, and this going back to, if you want to, that slide that was all complicated with all the Z's and the C's and the R's? Yeah, it's not easy. It's difficult to develop this.
Okay, got a question for you in the back here.
Hi, very nice.
Thank you.
Your slide had SBIR on it.
Yes.
I'm just curious as to why you didn't go for an STTR.
We did. We didn't get it.
Okay.
Yeah. We've gone for both.
Okay. And then can you offer any general guidance with respect to the SBIR for medical ventures?
I'm not sure what guidance you mean. Your team has to be spot on. If your team is not spot on, everything else can be perfect and you won't get it. They've really changed what they want to see from a long time ago. They don't like to fund basic research as much as they used to. They really want to see that there's a path to a product. And so if, number one, if you don't have a complete team on your grant, you're not going to get it, period, end of story. Generally speaking, the market needs to be good too. And that didn't used to be true. They used to fund niche products. That's not true for drugs. If you have an orphan drug that you apply for an SBIR and STTR, they will consider that. But for general stuff, if the market's not big, they won't do it.
Okay.
I don't know if that helped.
It's very helpful. The other thing is you mentioned this would be a more affordable test for developing countries.
It won't necessarily be a more affordable test, but it will pay for itself because we will shrink all of the healthcare costs that come after the test.
My question is, do developing countries have access to the high-priced vancomycins and type of drugs to treat what you might diagnose?
Yeah, the answer to that is most don't, but if you look at China, about 30% of people in China have good healthcare coverage because they either work for the government or they're wealthy. That makes China a bigger market than the United States. But yeah, no, this is not a product for Africa or India or anything like that right now, not at all. Yeah.
Steve, I have a question real quick. We have a lot of technology presenters show up at 1 Million Cups. We don't often have a lot of biosciences presenters. Can you talk about the community and the resources in Kansas City that you found most helpful in the biosciences area?
Yeah, it's all out in Johnson County, by the way, and you guys never go out and recruit in Johnson County. That's one of the problems. I mean, yeah, there's a ton of CROs here. There's a ton of life science activities in the Kansas City area from old Marion people and, actually in some ex-Cerner people, but it's all out in Johnson County. I don't know if that answers the question or not. Also, I don't draw on it that much just because I've done it for so long. I kind of have my network of people already.
Got a question for you here?
Well, Bob King from Leavenworth, and I had this question before. You said it's not for Africa, and I'm going to ask it anyway, and that is, like Ben & Jerry's and Tom's Shoes gets a lot of street cred because they support social programs. So social business and social good is great. Every year there's a social good summit that Melinda Gates speaks at in New York, and it's in September. And so what I suggest is if you did something where, for every 10 of these in the U.S., we'll do one for a developing country, you might get the attention of like a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or somebody else that's pursuing such programs. So I didn't know if you thought about that.
We have, I actually know the founder of Tom's Shoes, and it was a marketing gimmick. He's not altruistic. But believe it or not, it was a marketing gimmick. He wanted to sell shoes. Yeah, we've thought about it. We have. And again, we have to raise money. And so in order to raise money with a company like us, we have to target Europe first. So we would launch product in Europe first, believe it or not, China second, and then the United States, and all those require regulatory. So we've thought about it. It's just, again, in India, this will never be a product because they just hit people with broad spectrum antibiotics if they think they're septic, and they don't ever diagnose them. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about how you actually will take a product like this to market?
Right, so the challenge for us is if you go, as an example, if you go to the University of Missouri Hospital, it serves a population of about 200,000 people, and they do 12,000 blood cultures a year, okay? They've got 5 machines, not one, that do it. So us going in and saying, hey, throw away all your 5 machines and put ours in, it's gonna be pretty tough, okay? So now we could focus on smaller hospitals where we just give them 1 machine because they only have it. The other thing we're doing is we're focused on some specialty niche markets. So as an example, on our product timeline is a tuberculosis test. Tuberculosis grows extremely slowly. It's 8 weeks, and we can shrink that to 1 week. So we could go in with a complementary product where we said to a hospital, listen, keep doing what you're doing now, just buy our thing for like TB. So yeah, the biggest challenge of this is how do you displace an existing market leader? The way we want to do this is we want to get bought by the existing market leader. Is what we'd like to happen.
Steve, I got a question for you. One of my favorite questions to ask serial entrepreneurs is just talk about a little bit about your journey and where you started and how you've developed and how did this idea actually come to be an idea and how did you meet the team and so on?
Oh God. I thought we only had like 14 minutes or something.
Hey man, people aren't asking questions, so.
I accidentally fell into it. I was involved with some technology when I was in graduate school that had military and communications applications. It was an optics company, and just accidentally founded the company, and then I sold it about a year and a half later, so I sold it when I was still in graduate school. Then a friend of mine had a startup idea for I was one of the co-founders of one of the first DNA diagnostic companies, and he brought me in because I had done it before. And then I just started doing it, and I like it. You know, I'm good at the early stage. I did do one company where I took it from conception into sales and marketing and acquisition, and I'll never do that again. I hate that later stage stuff. You know, I hate managing salespeople. I'm sure there's some salespeople in the audience, but they're a total pain in the ass. Managing them. And so, you know, and I know a lot of people. I've networked over the years, so a lot of times people call me up and say, hey, I've got something, you know, come and look at it. So I do. I have a pretty good technical sniffer that I can tell when something's kind of baloney versus when it's going to work. And, you know, one of the things I've learned over time, I don't go after small markets anymore because, you know, this is $1 billion market, but man, that market's going to shrink on us as things happen, right? I mean, it just does. And so, yeah, I don't do anything that's not a pretty big market. And this one, I know the chancellor of research at Mizzou, and he asked me about a year and a half ago to come out and look at some of their technologies that were translational and see if it was any good. This one looked the worst because my partner is a young Indian engineering professor, so his slides sucked. And so like on his 18th slide, he's like, oh yeah, and we've done it all in human blood. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, you've done it in human blood? I'm like, because with life science stuff, that's generally where it fails. Lots of stuff works in salt water, okay? But when you go to actual patient samples that are complicated, you know, blood's complicated, y'all. I mean, you'd be surprised. Tissue samples are even more complicated. So because he had already demonstrated in that, I had a high level of confidence that it would work. And I went to graduate school with Kim. We've been friends for, you know, 20 years. I normally only like to work with people I know, I've already known, honestly. And I've just done it long enough that I know a bunch of people. So, yeah. So anyone would-be entrepreneurs, I mean, listen, I have this, I'll tell you about my theory of the rat. Has anyone ever heard of the theory of the rat? Well, it's my theory. So how many people in America in the job place will do something kind of like radish? You know, cheat on their time sheet, or, you know, be lazy, or whatever. Like what percentage of people do you think are rats? 80. Come on, answers. 10. Wow. You have faith. All right, no more answers? All right, let's take 10, okay? Let's take 10. Let's take the lowest, all right? It's more than 10, by the way, just so you know. So if you have a startup company and you have 10 employees, how many rats do you have? You have 1. Oh, no, I'm really good at hiring. And oh, no, we're a tight-knit group. And oh, no. That's all bullshit. You've got 1, okay? In fact, you probably got 3. 30 is more likely, all right? And so one of the things is your job as an entrepreneur is to find those rats and kill them, okay? Meaning fire them, okay? So one of the reasons I try and work with people I've worked with a lot in the past is I have a less likely chance of getting rats, right? By the way, this goes for advisors and this goes for employees. It goes for everyone, all right? So anyway, one of the things I like to do is just work with people I've already worked with, where they've proven they're not a rat.
That's amazing. That's a 1 million cups first for us. All right, guys, questions. Wake up, have some coffee.
Always count me out. I'll always have a second, but I try to share. So Google has announced that they're going to be doing some contact lenses that can sense glucose, so you don't have to do the blood penetration. So I was just wondering, looking at this and the growth of wearable technology, if this technology could be something that could go that direction, where there was a wearable technology that also could do this.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. I mean, that would require some kind of invasive nature. Also, doctors want to know if you've got one bug in your bloodstream that's growing. Because if you do, you're going to go septic. Now, you might not for 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 days. And if I catch you quick, then you won't go septic. So probably not. Yeah, probably not. Maybe in a hospital setting where you're in the ICU and already have someone hooked up to an IV, maybe, maybe. Our test is cheap, y'all. That's the other thing to keep in mind. This test is currently reimbursed by Medicare in the $60 to $70 range. Okay, this is not an expensive test.
Here we go.
So exactly where are you in the money raising and your money raising status?
We've raised a little over $100,000. We've got about another $400,000 committed that we're actually waiting to close on because we're actually in acquisition talks with the company. And we'd like to bring in around $1 million. Because we have the grant money, we're actually moving our development forward anyway. All right, so we don't. We always need money, by the way. You can never have too much money. All right, but we are moving forward anyway. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who would you consider your closest competitor?
From a business perspective, Becton Dickinson, because they're the market leader. bioMérieux is the #2 player in this sector. Those two are the ones that are out there dominant. There's a lot of companies that are developing biomarkers for rapid pathogen identification, whether they're DNA-based or protein or peptide mapping based or small molecule. But all of those technologies require blood culture first. Okay, they have to grow the sample first. So probably Becton Dickinson. And there was a question earlier that why can't BD do it? BD's probably working on something. I mean, they're not stupid. I mean, they're a big, smart company with a big market share. They just don't tell anyone what they're working on until it's out.
Steve, when you have a long product development cycle and you have to raise lots of money, how do you manage risk and keep your employees happy, keep the company in good shape? How do you measure milestones and progress when you have such a long runway?
Yeah, I mean, again, for a product like this, it's not a huge runway. Like I don't think 18 months is that long. It goes by pretty quick. I think that how to keep employees happy. Well, I'm really nice, and they want to hang out with me. Managing risk is what we're doing to manage risk is we're trying to do our clinical study first on a prototype device that's manual before we actually spend the money on product development. Because if it works on clinical samples, the product's going to work. And then with milestones, I think with any company, you just try and be smart. Don't bang your head against a milestone when you pay attention and see that milestone was wrong. Don't be afraid to change it. Now, don't be wishy-washy and change it every day. But I have seen companies that change their milestones way too often. I've seen companies that change their milestones never, and that's not smart. So I would say for an 18th month development, we're probably going to have to change our milestones 2 or 3 times, probably. If we have to change them more than that, then we weren't smart up front.
You had a slide that showed a specific set of bacteria that you could identify, or that could be identified. Is that actually limited
No.
by your process?
No, in fact, we've actually identified more pathogens than the Becton Dickinson product does. So there's certain pathogens that we've identified that they don't. So as an example, yeast is important. Like if you get infected with yeast in your bloodstream, you're going to go septic. We can see yeast, they can't. Yeah.
Are there other things that this electrical technique, as I understand it, somehow eliminates from being able to be detected? For example, as I understand it, one of the hopes for early cancer detection is to detect early kinds of proteins
Yeah, we don't.
In the blood. Do you facilitate that in any way?
No.
Can that still be done with blood that's been through your process?
Oh, that would be done with a separate blood sample. So when you present at the hospital, I mean, when was the last time anyone was at the hospital and you're sick? They take like 3 or 4 vials of blood, right? And so they would give one to us, and then they've got 2 or 3 others that they do other tests on. But yeah, we would throw our blood away when we're done. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, you said that your intention was to start in Europe first.
Correct.
Do you have different regulations that you have to meet in Europe? And if so, why are you doing your studies here?
The easiest country, believe it or not, to get a medical product approved is in Italy, believe it or not. And in Europe, they allow you to use prototype data for your regulatory filings, okay? So all of the work, all of the data we collect during this development, we can actually file with England and Italy. That's probably where we'll go first, is England and Italy, so that by the time we're here, we can actually be selling product. That's why you go to Europe first. China basically rubber stamps it if it's approved in Europe, okay? So that's why we'd probably go to China second. Now, you have to go into China with a partner, in which we're already developing some relationships. But the US is just the slowest and the hardest. Yeah.
All right, Steve, I think we've asked you lots of interesting questions, and so we're going to ask you our famous 1 million cups question. What can we do as a community to support you?
I thought it was going to be what my favorite cuss word was, like an inside of the actor studio.
We'll add that in.
No one's going to ask me that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think 1 million cups should, I think Jason mentioned you don't really get any life science companies. I think you guys should maybe go recruit a little bit further out and get some life science companies coming in here, because that would be nice if I saw some life science faces, and I don't think I see very many, if I see any. So yeah, again, I think it's great, by the way. I think it's cool. I think entrepreneurs should always know they need practice, okay? So even if I'm not gonna make any money here, it's practice, right? And so I try and practice every single time I can. So if nothing else, it's a nice platform for that, yeah.
All right. Big round of applause. Okay, so we are getting set up. Normally we have announcement sheets that come out, but we didn't get those done this week. So we're run off a bunch of volunteers. So anyway, if you had an announcement this week that you wanted to quickly say something, just let us know if you reached out to us, and we'll try and include it at the end. Melissa, why don't you introduce our speaker?
Okay, so we do have a quick and interim introduction. As you know, we've started doing the announcements, and just off the top of my head, what I remember, sorry guys, is there's a 1 Billion Bits event tonight at Barclay. There are 2 events happening tomorrow night in Kansas City. One that is the SPN meetup at the Sprint Accelerator, and then the second is the Athena League in Spiritus at Snow & Co. So make sure you attend all 3 of those if you can. So real quickly, just a quick interim presentation to keep everyone engaged about some resources that we've got, and a really interesting kind of project that someone's working on here in Kansas City. Deirdre, I'm sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Deirdre Shannon, and I'm the Midwest Regional Organizer for Forward US. Has anybody here heard of Forward US? No? Oh, excellent. It's a good crowd. Forward US is a nonprofit organization founded by leaders in tech to engage the tech community in politics and policy, and to advocate policies that advance the knowledge economy. So our founders include folks like Mark Zuckerberg, Reid Hoffman, and Drew Houston, and we're spreading nationally to engage the tech community in conversations around policies that hopefully will promote the knowledge economy and continue to support the tech community. Around that, we have 2 goals. The first is our first major campaign, the one we've been working on since our founding last April, is to push for comprehensive immigration reform. The second goal is to launch a nationwide series of events that will hopefully launch in the Midwest in April around questions of tech and the knowledge economy. It started with a panel series discussion in Silicon Valley, where Peter Thiel debated Andrew McAfee on the future of tech in the middle class. We'll continue that with our own Midwest launch in Chicago in April on the future of talent in tech in the Midwest. On our main campaign, immigration reform, it goes back to our founding. There's kind of a cute story around it. Mark Zuckerberg was tutoring students at a high school near Palo Alto, and went around the classroom and asked them, how many of you guys are going to college? And some of them were really excited, but about half of the students said that they weren't planning on going to college. They couldn't go because they couldn't get financial aid. And they couldn't get financial aid because they were undocumented. So with that, launched Forward US, an effort by the tech community to address immigration reform in the country. Around that, we have 2 major ways that you can get involved if you're interested. The first is direct advocacy, which we talk about putting the right people, which is tech people, in front of the right congressmen, which are folks who need a little extra nudge in understanding just how important immigrants and immigration is to the tech community nationally. The second piece is story sharing. So how many of you are all immigrants? Okay, we've got a couple. How many of you are the children of immigrants? How many of you are immigrant roots and maybe celebrated with me on Monday? Yeah, okay. The point is that when we look and we dig, we know that, especially in the tech community, we've got coworkers, we have friends, we have family members who came here from another country to build their businesses, to follow their dreams, and to build careers that contribute to the American economy. So our goal is to feature those stories on a website called Built by Immigrants. So if you have a great immigration story and you want to share it to help us change the narrative of immigration in this country, builtbyimmigrants.com. Beyond that, beyond immigration reform, we're going to continue to push with these conversations about engaging tech in policy and politics. If you're interested in learning more about our efforts in the Midwest, please come see me after the presentations. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Deirdre. See, I got it right this time. So we have another quick presentation for y'all today. This is a really interesting product that came to us across Twitter. Laura is the proprietor of Notes to Self, which is an inspirational sock company. Yes, you heard that right. So everyone, please welcome Laura to the stage.
Hi, I'm really excited to be here today and share with you a little bit about our story. I've always believed in the power of positive affirmations, phrases that we say to ourselves to build confidence and train our minds, like, I am confident. And I've always put them all over my house, on my bathroom mirror with lip liner, on sticky notes all over my desk. And I really believe in the power of those. And this idea specifically came to me when we were on a road trip. Our family was headed to western Kansas, and I was in the passenger seat with my feet up on the dashboard. My shoes were off and I had socks on, and I was reading a book about positive thinking and how the best time to say positive affirmations is early in the morning and late at night, in that half awake, half asleep time when the subconscious mind is most open, because the conscious filters aren't quite up then. And it just kind of hit me. What if I put positive affirmations on the toes of socks? Then at least twice a day, the person wearing the socks would be thinking better thoughts without even trying. And then I thought, what if kids too young to read had I am smart on their toes? And what if that became one of the first phrases that they learned to say? And what if that thought came to them throughout their lives in times of uncertainty? How might that affect their entire life? So that's kind of where the idea came from. Notes to Self socks. I started my research and went to a class on trademarking at the Enterprise Center of Johnson County, and I hired a trademark attorney and just started the process of protecting my intellectual property. And I drew initial designs, and they really were just Word documents that were rectangles that had words at the top and on the bottom. I received my first shipment of Notes to Self socks late that summer, and our first phrase was, I am awesome. A friend of mine traveled to Kenya and took the socks with him and sent me that picture. I started selling directly to customers. I would go to classes like at the Women's Business Center about Facebook or Twitter, because part of my strategy was to share the message through social media. And people would say to me, we'd talk about what our business was, everyone would introduce themselves, and when they heard about mine, they'd say, well, do you have any socks with you? And I'd say, actually, I do in my car. And so they'd follow me out to the car and buy my socks. So it was really, proof that people would pay money for the product. I sold them in a small hair salon and in a consignment shop. And I launched my website in the the fall of 2011, and this is my cover picture on my website, the O'Laughlin family. Some of you may know them. They're awesome. And I called on a privately owned Hallmark store, the buyer, and showed her the socks, and it was right before Thanksgiving, and she put them in 2 of her stores, and between Thanksgiving and Christmas, each store sold over 140 pairs. So that was more proof and confidence. I continued to call on little stores and hospital gift shops. That's one of my primary target markets as well. And I sold them to KU Med Center Gift Shop, Children's Mercy Hospital, St. Luke's Heart Institute. And this is a picture of the PVA volleyball team, which our daughter was a part of. And the Notes to Self socks are the official socks of their volleyball club. And our daughter played volleyball year-round, and actually a few years before this idea, she's in college now, but she and I were going to write a book about the best words to say if you're the athlete on the court, or you're the coach, or you're a parent. And specifically being the athlete on the court, she chose "I am confident" as the phrase she wanted to focus on when the ball was coming over the net. And "I am confident" socks were our first crew socks that we introduced. Notes to Self socks are now sold online in over 1,000 stores nationwide, including the Mayo Clinic. And I couldn't have done it without my family. Many of them are here today. My husband Garrett has been with me every step of the way. Our children, who are all in college now, and our son Harrison is here, were instrumental in helping me design the brand and the socks and many of the sayings. Our daughter Elaine came up with the phrase, "I am perfectly me," which is one of our socks. My parents have helped me so much from the beginning. They did whatever needed to be done. My in-laws were also very supportive. And my siblings have been the best PR team in the world. My sister Jane ran 2 marathons in Notes to Self socks, one being the New York Marathon. And I'm just so grateful for their love and support, and their encouraging words mean so much. Our team, I'm thankful for my entire team, which is made up of 9 part-time employees. They're smart, positive, honest, hardworking, and they believe what I believe. And they love the socks and the words almost as much as I do. I want to share with you a few stories that others have shared with me. I've received emails and notes from customers telling me that they've given the I Am Strong socks to women that are battling breast cancer or people going into surgery. A friend of mine sent me a picture of her wearing the Strong socks while she was receiving chemotherapy. A mom shared with me that her 8th grade son came down the stairs on the day of his high school entrance exam wearing the I Am Smart socks. And one customer shared that she turned 52 years old this year, and to honor her birthday throughout the year, she gave 52 pairs of socks to others, and she had a great time making others happy with my socks. A wonderful first-year teacher in Illinois wrote me to say that she would love to give the socks to her classroom, and we partnered together to make that happen. And she sent me this picture of these 2nd graders wearing their socks, and each one drew me a picture, and that is one of them with her I Am Smart socks on. I love that she took her little pinky high heels off and put the I Am Smart socks on. But the notes they wrote were just so heartwarming. One of them said, "These socks make me believe in myself." And the other one said, "When I get frustrated, I just read my socks." There's a 37-second video on my Facebook page right now. I just reposted it last night, and if you have a chance to watch it, it's the most meaningful video, and it really sums up what this is all about. A wonderful aspect of the socks is that when you look down at your feet, you think about the person that gave you the socks. You think about that they believe in you, and I think that's one of the meaningful things about them. Our company's also very focused on giving back. We've donated thousands of pairs of socks to underprivileged people, and we're very proud that our products are made in the USA. And our goal is to get Notes to Self socks on 1 million pairs of feet by the end of this year, through sales of the product, through my donations, and then also through partnering with other philanthropists who also would like to share the socks with their favorite charity or inner city school and help young people in this way.
Laura,
Yes.
it's time to open it up for questions.
Okay, I'm finished. Perfect timing. Where are you? Okay.
All right, we got a question in the back here.
How did you come up with the seed money to begin this endeavor? And just tell us a little bit about that journey.
Okay. Basically, we refinanced our house and pulled some money out, and I used 0% credit cards. Okay.
We have a question over here, Laura, to your right.
Am I right?
KnitRight is a manufacturer in Kansas City, Missouri that makes prosthetic socks.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought about collaborating with them?
You know, I actually called someone from there early on because I saw him through LinkedIn, and we talked about it, and theirs are very specific in what they were doing. So at that point, there wasn't a connection, but who knows in the future? Thank you.
Laura, got a question on your left here.
Getting socks made in the United States, that sounds difficult. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, you know, the sock industry is really coming back. 3 years ago when I started this, almost 3 years ago, a lot of manufacturing had gone overseas, but a lot of mills had closed here in the US, but there's kind of been a turnaround with that, and companies that did go overseas now are bringing manufacturing back here.
Can you talk about the creative process that, I think it's such a great story that you talked about your kids being part of the business and incorporating their creative ideas into the actual product. Can you talk about that as
Sure.
From a family perspective?
Sure. Well, just when I first had the idea, I thought I was going to use all caps for the words, and my kids suggested that I go to lowercase, which I think is more modern. They helped me pick out the font. Our font is Kalinga, just kind of a real clean font. Our website, we wanted it to, they helped me, think about what I wanted it to look like, and I wanted it to just be really clean, kind of like Apple's website, just where there's a few options and pictures and that type of thing. And the sayings, they've helped me decide which saying is the best one to do. I remember early on I told Harrison that I was going to do I am awesome, or I was going to do these socks, and he thought initially that it was going to be primarily geared towards women. And then I said, what if I did I am awesome? And he liked that, and that's our #1 best-selling sock.
We have a question here in the middle, Laura.
So do you have a limited number of sayings? And if somebody came to you with another saying, would you be able to produce those? And what's your minimum order?
Okay, we have over 30 sayings right now, and I love suggestions from people. I always ask people, if you have ideas, please let me know. And I have a big list that's really long with possible future sayings, and just try to decide which one we're going to introduce. And I do custom runs, like a few hundred pairs, but it just kind of depends. We've been so busy right now just fulfilling the demand of the stores that we have and stuff. It's I haven't proactively sought out that, but it is part of what I do. Yeah.
Okay, got a question over here for you.
I'd like to buy a pair for Nate for his birthday. He recently had a birthday. And I heard a podcast of yours about a year ago, and I listened to it multiple times at the time, and your message is the same. I have recently fallen in love with smart wool socks due to our recent temperature change.
Right.
Do they come in variety cotton blends, or can you do them in smart wool?
Question. And wool is like on the future list. Definitely, but right now I chose Pima cotton, a really high grade of cotton for the low cut socks, and then for the crew socks I chose moisture wicking polyester just for the performance aspects of it. But we are looking into the future and possibly wool.
We have another question here in the middle.
Okay, so I tweeted out you should get Stuart Smalley to be your celebrity sponsor. I'm good enough, I'm strong enough.
Yeah, really.
But I'm a big believer in win-win. 2 + 2 is 5 or 6 when you're partnering together.
I agree.
And so there's Blair's Socks, which is a local
I know her.
organization, right?
We've met for coffee, and we're going to meet again.
And Red Dirt Shop, which does original artist cell phone covers. So and they go for like, in developing countries. So when I saw that on there, I suggest looking at them and maybe doing combo deals. Get socks that says I'm strong and a mobile phone case,
Right.
and ship it in one package or something.
Love it. Thank you.
Okay, got a question over here.
For people who might be like interviewing and need dress socks, that'd be something good to have on. When you go to a job interview, do you do anything like that?
Well, our crew socks are neutral enough that the words are on the toes so you don't see them, and that is one of the aspects of the whole idea that it can be private. If when I'm wearing I Am Confident socks, I may not want to tell the world that, and that I do wear. When I was on TV, I wore I Am Confident crew socks with my dress boots, so they can be dress socks.
I just have a quick question. So if you could suggest one affirmation to the 1 Million Cups crowd, and you were like to make us a custom 1 Million Cups sock, what would that be?
Ooh, like a new one?
Yeah, like, I hate to put you on the spot, but what would the word be for entrepreneurs?
I am caffeinated. I already have I am optimistic, but I think that's what this is all about.
I know nothing about this sort of thing, but this seems to be something that could be very susceptible to knockoffs. So how do you handle something like that?
My strategy from the very beginning was just to get to market as fast as I could. And one of the things I did is I tried, as far as the internet, right now on my Facebook page, I only allow the US and Canada to view it. I only opened it up to Canada recently. I just had it in the US because I thought that would be the easiest thing for just somebody overseas to get the idea. But now I'm out there, but I was running as fast as I could to be the first to market and to make a big enough splash that at least knockoffs will come, but at least my brand would be noticed first. And it's all about doing good, truly. I mean, honestly, I love business, but this isn't really about business. It's just about the words and getting them out there. And if I could give them all away, I would. So I just figure, it'll all work out.
Laura, all the way on your left over here.
So I'm thinking about the Hispanic market, maybe something in Spanish. And number two, one of the socks that I really have gotten into this last year have been those really thin white socks that you wear in dress shoes. So like I can wear like slip-ons like this, but I have those really thin white socks. And they're really small. They don't go all the way up to the ankle.
Right, you can't. Can you not see them?
Yeah, I don't know if women wear those. I think women do wear those too, but they make them for men as well.
With dress shoes.
And dress shoes, and I think those would be really cool socks to have at the bottom too. Those are really small.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Good idea. And I am considering doing them in other languages. Yeah.
We have a question here in the middle.
Matt Burkhart, Laura, good to see another e-scholar up on stage. So I'm sure this didn't start last week. So kind of what was the timeline, and as well as some of the bigger hurdles that you've had to overcome in order to reach, I guess you're not at the 1 million socks yet, but to get there.
Right. So January 2011 was when I was on the road trip, and April was when I started really working on it. And then, this late summer, I started selling the socks. And then the next year, I had expansion through some Hallmark stores. That was 2012. And then in 2013, we 4 timesed our growth from 2012, or our results. And does that answer your question? Hurdles. Yeah, just the socks that we sell today are not the same socks as what we started with. There were quality things that we worked out and design issues and things like that. So there was a point that I inspected every single pair of socks that left, and just to make sure that it's top quality, and they're great quality now. Just that we started in our home. We've only been in our warehouse since last April, so not even a year. So we were in hundreds of stores working out of our house, and that became our 3 kids are all in college now, but 2 of them were in college at that time, so we took over their bedrooms. Our front room and dining room was full of boxes of socks. We just really tried to be frugal and worked round the clock.
Laura, we have a special guest here today. John McGovern is back in the building. He's one of our original community organizers. He's got a question for you.
So you've told a really great story, and I love your story of how the socks came about and what you wanted to do and the impactful words. With a passion project that you want to become a business, how did you handle that transition from, I have a great idea that I want people to see, but I still need to make money on it? So like your main price point of what you were going to sell the socks for, who your manufacturer was. You've said they're being manufactured in the United States, so that was clearly a decision. How did you go through that process of we have something great to this is something that will be self-sustaining and ongoing?
Right. Good question. Yeah, at first I wasn't sure how to price them, and I had never worked with stores before to know, that about wholesaling to them and then them having to sell it at a different price. And working with the first Hallmark that I dealt with helped me understand that, because they told me what their expectations were, that type of thing. They are made in the U.S., so they're not as inexpensive as, what it could be overseas, but it was very important to me. And $9.99, it just seems so wonderful that $9.99, it's just such a great price. Like, you can buy a greeting card for whatever, $4 or $5, or you can have this pair of socks that's like going to be reminding the person of you forever. But as far as making money, yeah, it's important. It's also, I invested money. It is about the words and I want to get them out, but I also wanted it to be successful, because if my business isn't successful, I can't keep sharing the words. Any other specific questions or follow-up? No? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Got another question over here to your right.
It appears that, the message is hidden to the rest of the world on these, but have you thought about, especially with kids, putting the message up higher on the back of the sock and maybe using the term be awesome or be confident?
Thank you. Yes, I have, and we're working on what our next phase of that's going to be, because there are some people that would like to share that with others. Okay.
Laura, we have a question all the way in the back.
Way back here. You mentioned earlier, you said you wanted to keep it, simple and clean. I guess my question is, would that prevent you from maybe following what would be the natural progression of moving into maybe different colored socks, how longer socks, or those weird toe socks people seem to like?
Right. We have done that. No, I'm open to expanding on the design. One thing that I haven't done yet is added any, like stars or hearts or, any kind of designs like that, because I want it to really be about the words. Not to say that I wouldn't in the future, but we have neon socks. We have, bright green neon socks that say I am destined for greatness, and we're expanding that way.
In your opinion, I'm just curious, in all your research and development, what makes a great sock?
As far as the makeup of the sock?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so ours are, I really wanted like the highest quality athletic-like sock. So we did arch support, which was always important to me, so that the sock stayed on your foot when you were running or whatever, and then breathable mesh top, real technical look, and good quality ingredients, like Pima cotton.
Awesome. Okay, another question for you.
The Shark Tank viewer in me is coming out. I know that you said you want to be on 1 million feet by the end of the year. What are your sales to date?
Yeah, and I don't, because we're a private company, I don't really talk about revenue, but I will tell you that we're more than a fifth of the way to the 1 million pairs. So it's a big jump for us to get to 1 million this year, but I always believe that if you set the goal big enough that, the universe comes to play and helps make it happen.
We have a question over here to your right.
Are you looking for additional funding?
Not right now. Possibly. I'm kind of learning about that. Honestly, I'm learning every step on every step along the way as I put one foot forward. But what I'm investigating now is when the point comes that I might want funding, what would I do with it? Right now we're just trying to fund it ourselves, but I'm open to that possibly in the future.
We have another question over here to your right.
Hi, this is for the gentleman that talked about interviewing.
I suggest you wear those socks, and at the end of the interview, whip off your shoes, show them your socks, and you may just land that job.
I like that.
We have another question over here.
Do you have a branding logo or anything on your socks to identify them as yours?
Notes to self are on the cuff of the sock, right, like kind of where the shoelaces lace up, then right there, and on the crew sock, they're around the cuff. And it just really is neat for me to see people wearing the socks. You know, it's cool.
Another question
My
for
brand
you
is there. Yeah.
in the front.
So I'm trying to find you on Twitter, but I'm not seeing a hashtag or something to connect with you directly. What is your social media contact information so we can push it out a little better?
Okay, so, and you might tell me if I'm missing a piece, but it's at Notes to Self Sock. That's my that's my handle. But hashtags, I need to learn about that. Sorry.
Any social media experts in the house? Another question over here.
You know, that really goes along with what my question was going to be. This seems like a product that social media could just glob onto, you know, something that would take fire and would all of a sudden be trending. And so do you have a social media strategy? Have you really put that into your marketing plan and your business plan?
I haven't done enough with that. I've been most active on Facebook, and I just do a little bit on Twitter. I just got a Hootsuite account, and I do have Instagram and Pinterest. So my daughter is going to help us this summer on that. So yeah, I'm a beginner.
We have a question here in the middle.
Hi, Laura. So on the socks, as a fellow designer, are you having to design the socks? Or are you able to take kind of a standard sock design and then put your words on there?
Yeah, I mean, the mills already know, how to do arch support and how to do breathable mesh. So, they would send me samples of what they did, and then I'd say, hey, can you do this a little bit differently?
Oh, got another question for you.
Can you tell me about your experience with support from the community with your company and at UMKC with the eScholars program? What feedback you've gotten there and how you've liked that process so far?
Yeah, I sure will. I've really enjoyed. Well, first off, let me start from the beginning. Some of the resources that I reached out to early on were the Enterprise Center of Johnson County and the Women's Business Center, and took classes there on all different aspects of entrepreneurship. But I also went to the Small Business Development Center at Johnson County Community College, and I have a mentor there, and I meet with her once a month, and that has been phenomenal support. Her name's Elisa Waldman. She's awesome. And then I just recently got in the UMKC eScholars program, and the network that is there that they connect you with has been wonderful, and the speakers that they bring in. They brought in the Zapata company right after they, just had their last transition, and we got to hear all about how they did it. So it has been phenomenal. It's a great city to be an entrepreneur.
All right, Laura, final question for you. What can we do as a community to be supporting you in your goals to get, 1 million socks onto people's feet, and in the next 6 months or so? What can we do to support you?
Thank you. Well, did you guys get the stickers? Okay, so there's 4 stickers in there, and I always put mine on the back of my cell phone or on your bathroom mirror, on your laptop or notebook or whatever. So I would ask to, put one on something that you own today and share the other 3 with others. And so that's going to explode the positive messages from there, and just tell people our story. I would so appreciate that.
All right, big round of applause for Laura.
Thank you.
That's all we have for this week. So just a quick note, if you could exit out these doors, we're not pushing you out right away or anything, but if you could exit out these doors instead of over here, they're going to be doing some filming outside. So anyway, those doors are the way to go this week, and we'll see you next week. We got a really fun lineup in the next couple weeks for you, so hope to see you then.